The month after a spouse passes away, Social Security stops one of the household's 2 checks. Not pauses it, stops it, permanently. And the government decides which one, using a rule most couples have never heard of. Picture a couple in their 70s. Ray and Diane. 2 Social Security deposits land in their account every month like clockwork, his $2,400 and her $1,200. Between those 2 checks, the bills get paid, the property taxes get covered, and the lights stay on. Then Ray passes away. Within weeks, Diane learns what the system had planned all along. Her household income just dropped by a full third. The mortgage did not drop, neither did the insurance, the heating bill, or the property taxes. Every expense of a 2-person house now resting on 1 check. I call it the 1 check trap. 2 checks become 1. And honestly, that part a lot of people have at least heard about. What almost nobody knows is that the size of that 1 remaining check was locked in years earlier by a decision Ray made at his kitchen table. A decision he thought only affected him. And here's the part that got me when I was researching this. There is a rule buried in Social Security's own operations manual that reaches back to the day one spouse filed for benefits and uses that date to cap the survivor's check for the rest of their life. It has the ugliest name in the entire manual, and we're going to drag it into the daylight today. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how survivor benefits work, the hidden rule that caps them, the one claiming strategy Congress never took away, and a single birthday that decides whether a surviving spouse keeps that check at all. Let's get into it. So let's start with the rule itself, because everything else in this video hangs off of it. When both spouses receive Social Security and one of them passes away, the survivor does not keep both checks. Under federal rules, the survivor receives the larger of the 2 amounts, their own retirement benefit, or the survivor benefit based on their spouse's record. One or the other, never both. That comes straight from the Social Security Administration's own survivor publication, SSA.gov, publication 05-10084, and I'll put it on screen so you know I'm not making this up. The agency's paperwork calls the situation dual entitlement. 45 years of marriage, and the system files it under an accounting term. Moving on. Now let me say that a second way, because this is the foundation. Think of the household as holding 2 buckets of money every month. When one spouse dies, Social Security keeps whichever bucket is smaller. Full stop. Nobody chooses. No form changes it. The math is automatic. And the math is brutal in a very specific way. Run the numbers on Ray and Diane. $2,400 plus $1,200 is $3,600 a month coming in. After Ray passes, Diane keeps the larger check, $2,400. Her income fell by a third. Households where the 2 checks were closer in size lose even more. 2 equal checks means the survivor loses half. A 1/3 to 1/2 income cut, delivered in the same month as a funeral. Here's the natural assumption at this point, and it was mine too. The survivor keeps the bigger check, the smaller one goes away, and that's the whole story. Sad but simple, you just plan around it. Except that bigger check has a secret. The size of it was not decided when Ray died. It was decided years earlier, on the day Ray first walked into a Social Security office and filed. And that brings us to the rule with the ugly name. The Social Security Operations Manual calls it RIB-LIM. It stands for the Retirement Insurance Benefit Limitation POMS section, on screen right now, because a rule this consequential deserves a citation. Inside the agency, plenty of people just call it the widow's limit, and it works like this. When the deceased spouse claimed their own retirement benefit early, before their full retirement age, the survivor's check gets capped at the larger of 2 numbers. The amount the deceased was actually receiving when they died, or 82.5% of the deceased's full retirement age benefit. Whichever of those 2 is bigger, that's the ceiling. Forever. Okay, that was the technical version. Now the plain one. The day Ray filed at 62, he wasn't just shrinking his own check by 30%. He was writing the ceiling on Diane's check for the rest of her life. The form he signed for himself became her cap. He just never knew it, because nobody at that desk is required to tell him. Let's put dollars on it, because this trap only becomes real with numbers. Ray's full retirement age benefit was $2,000 a month. Filing at 62 cut his check to $1,400. When he passes, Diane's survivor benefit is capped at the larger of what he was getting, $1,400, or 82.5% of the $2,000, which is $1,650. So her ceiling is $1,650. $1,650. Not the $2,000 his record earned over 40 years of work. $350 a month, gone. $4,200 a year, every year, for as long as Diane lives. And there is no appeal, no waiting period that fixes it, no form that unwinds it. The one check trap doesn't just shrink the household to one check, it shrinks the check itself. And I remember sitting with that for a minute when I first mapped it out, thinking, every 62-year-old standing in line to file is making a two-person decision. Almost every one of them believes it's a one-person decision. The system lets them believe it. Now, to be fair to the rule, and regular viewers know we always look at the other side, RIB-LIM cuts in the protective direction too. That 82.5% figure is a floor as much as a ceiling. Without it, Diane would be stuck at Ray's actual 1,400. The rule lifts her above the worst case. Analysts who study the provision describe it as a shield with a hard edge. It protects survivors of early filers from the bottom, while capping them well below the top. The mirror image is where it gets interesting. Delay works the same way in reverse, and it transfers. A spouse who waits until 70 earns delayed retirement credits, roughly 8% for every year past full retirement age, on a $2,000 record that builds a check of $2,480. When that spouse passes, the survivor's benefit is based on that bigger number. The check built by waiting outlives the person who built it. Regular viewers will recognize an old friend here, the Social Security timing trap from the mistakes video. Turns out the timing trap has a sequel. It follows the household even after you're gone, which brings us to the questions every survivor eventually asks. When does this check start, and how much of it do you get? Here's where survivor benefits break every pattern the rest of Social Security follows. Survivor benefits start at age 60, 2 full years before anything else in the system. Retirement benefits, 62 at the earliest. Spousal benefits on a living spouse, also 62. Survivor benefits, 60, and age 50 for a surviving spouse with a qualifying disability, paid at a flat 71.5% no matter where they fall in that 50 to 60 window. The 2-year head start is unique, and per SSA's survivor rules, most people have no idea it exists. The percentage scales with age, the same way retirement benefits do. Claim the survivor benefit at 60, and it pays 71.5% of the deceased's benefit amount. Wait until your survivor full retirement age, and it pays 100%. Every month in between moves the needle. One wrinkle worth knowing, full retirement age for survivor benefits runs on its own chart, and for many birth years it lands a bit earlier than the retirement version. SSA.gov has the table. So a survivor holds two separate benefits, their own retirement benefit and the survivor benefit, each with its own clock, each growing on its own schedule. Hold that thought, because it's about to matter a lot. First, a quick sidebar that tells you everything about how this system gets updated. Social Security also pays a one-time lump sum death payment to a surviving spouse who was living with them, $255. That figure was locked in back in the 1950s and has never been raised. Not for inflation, not for anything. $255, in an era when the flowers alone cost more. I'm not going to editorialize, the number editorializes itself. Back to those two clocks, because this is where the system hides its one genuinely generous loophole. Remember, the survivor benefit and your own retirement benefit are separate pots. And unlike almost everywhere else in Social Security, you are allowed to claim one of them first and switch to the other later, when it's bigger. Financial planners call it the claim and switch, and it runs in two directions. Direction 1. A survivor claims the survivor benefit as early as 60, lets their own retirement benefit grow untouched, earning delayed credits all the way to 70, then switches to their own record when it passes the survivor amount. Or run it the other way. For survivors whose spouse had the bigger record, a survivor claims their own reduced benefit early, lets the survivor benefit reach 100% at survivor full retirement age, then switches up. When I first read this, I had to read it twice, because Congress spent the last decade killing strategies exactly like this one. The 2015 Budget Act wiped out the famous restricted application move for spousal benefits. Fee-only planners point out that survivor benefits were deliberately left out of that law. The switch survives. It is, per the people who model this for a living, the last great sequencing play left in Social Security. Run one version with real numbers. A widow at 60, own benefit on track for $1,800 at 70, survivor benefit paying $1,400 right now at the reduced rate. She claims the $1,400 at 60, collects it for 10 years, then switches to her own $1,800 at 70. 10 years of income, and a bigger check for life afterward. The order of operations was worth 6 figures over her retirement. Nobody mailed her a letter about it. And that's the pattern with survivor benefits across the board. The rules are public, the math is knowable, and the system explains none of it proactively. SSA answers the questions you ask. It does not volunteer the questions you should be asking. Now loop back with me, because everything so far quietly assumed that waiting is the smart play. Regular viewers know the house rule. We always show when the opposite choice wins. And with survivor benefits, the opposite choice wins more often than you'd guess. Remember RIB-LIM, the cap. When the deceased spouse filed early, the survivor's check hits its ceiling, that 82.5%, well before the survivor reaches full retirement age. Benefits analysts who model this rule find the survivor's check stops growing at some point in their early 60s in those cases. Past that point, waiting buys nothing, zero. Every month of delay after the cap is a month of checks left on the table. There are other cases where early is right. A survivor with serious health issues and a shorter life expectancy. Someone using the switch strategy on purpose. Taking one benefit early is the whole point of the play. And anyone who needs the income now rather than selling investments at the bottom of a bad market, which is a scenario fee-only planners flag constantly. So the honest summary is this: for survivors, the right claiming age is not a slogan. It's a calculation, one that depends on the deceased's filing date, both benefit amounts, health, and the cap. And you'd think that covers the whole system: the check, the cap, the switch. That's the map, right? There's one more rule, and this one isn't about money at all. It's about a wedding date. Federal law draws a line through survivor benefits at one exact birthday. The statute is on screen right now. Marry again before age 60, and the survivor benefit ends. Remarry at 60 or any point after, and nothing changes, the benefit continues untouched, new marriage and all. Same person, same relationship, same wedding. The only variable is the date on the marriage license. A ceremony held 3 weeks before a 60th birthday erases the check. Hold it 3 weeks after, and the check stays for life. Congress put an expiration date on the penalty, and the expiration date is your 60th birthday. Picture Walter, 68, widowed, collecting a survivor benefit on his late wife's record, engaged to be married again. His benefit is safe. Now picture his neighbor, 58, widowed, same situation. Her wedding date is a financial decision worth hundreds of dollars a month, and per SSA's own publication, most people find out after the honeymoon. One detail worth knowing: when a remarriage that ended the benefit later ends itself, divorce or death, eligibility on the first record generally comes back. The one check trap has layers, and this is the deepest one. A check disappears the month a spouse dies. What remains gets capped by a decision made decades earlier. And then a wedding date decides whether the survivor keeps it at all. Which raises the obvious question: what do people actually do about all this? Here's what elder law attorneys and fee-only planners actually run for surviving spouses, and for married couples who want to get ahead of this while both are alive. 3 calculations, in order. First, they pull both benefit amounts at every claiming age, the survivor benefit and the survivor's own retirement benefit, at 60, at full retirement age, at 70. Second, they check the cap. Did the deceased file early, and where does RIB-LIM freeze the survivor's check? That answer alone decides whether waiting has any value. Third, they map the switch, which benefit to take first, and the exact month to trade up. Planners describe that ordering decision as the single biggest lever a survivor controls. And for married couples watching this together, the professionals frame the higher earner's claiming age as a household decision, not a personal one. The bigger record becomes the survivor's check no matter who outlives whom. An hour with a fee-only planner before the higher earner files is how families run that math with both names on the page. 2 things worth doing yourself this week. Log into your My Social Security account at SSA.gov and look at your benefit estimates, and have your spouse pull theirs, because now you know both numbers matter. And file this detail away. Survivor benefits are one of the only claims SSA will not take online. Applying means calling or visiting an office. Budget time for the hold music. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments. When you or someone in your family filed for Social Security, did anyone at that office mention what your claiming age would mean for a surviving spouse? One-word answers are fine, yes or no. I've been reading the comments on the last few videos, and I'm seeing a pattern I did not expect. Let's see whether it holds. So here's the loop, closed. The one check trap was never really about losing the smaller check. Every household loses that. What the trap really is: the surviving check was shaped years earlier, at a kitchen table, by one spouse, alone, with no warning label on the form. And the couples who beat it are the ones who found out while there was still time to decide together. Now, everything in this video leaned on one assumption, that waiting is the winning move. Here's the thing. There are 5 situations where filing at 62 is mathematically the right call. The break-even math flips completely, and almost nobody on this platform will say it out loud. That's the next video. I'm Mike, and I'll see you there. Take care.